Hello everyone. I'm here to talk about the good faith estimate that we prepare for buyers at the time of writing a contract. And that is the time, by the way, when we must prepare this good faith estimate. Now I'm going to go over it and show you how to do it. But before you can do that, you must know the terms of the loan. Now, at the very beginning of the process, right, you're going to get a good faith estimate from the lender, right? And that'll say whether it's an FHA loan, whether it's a USDA, whether it's a conventional loan, so on and so forth. Once you get that, you need to call back that or text or email that lender and say, okay, what are the terms exactly? If it's an FHA loan, you immediately know that the MI upfront is 1.75% and that the monthly MI is 0.85%. I personally like to save this information as a contact in my iPhone and or mobile phone, and I highly recommend that you guys do the same or have it somewhere, right? Now this is how I save it. Now, if it's a VA loan, for example, if this is their first VA loan, there is a funding fee, sort of like an upfront MI per se on an FHA, but there is zero monthly MI. The upfront funding fee for a VA loan is 2.3%. Now, if you have a conventional loan, sometimes they'll have both an upfront and a monthly MI, but most of the time, your conventional loans will have one or the other. Now, it's up to you to sort of recommend, and most lenders will let you have one or the other. And it's up to you to recommend to your buyer, hey, if this is going to be a house that you're going to stay in for a long time, what's best is to take the upfront MI because you'll save money on the long run by not having that monthly MI for the life of the loan or however long that goes. If it's a sort of a stepping stone type of home where they're going to keep it for maybe 3 to 5 years and then they want to upgrade or downgrade or whatnot, and that's their plan, then I highly recommend that they don't take the upfront MI and then just take the monthly MI because it'll be cheaper for them in the long term. Now, again, these are things that the lender should tell you and you should know right away. Okay? Now, with this information at hand, which by the way should be on your file from the beginning, let's go and take a look at the good faith estimate so you guys know how to produce that. I'm going to assume that most of you are doing the good faith estimate on Dotloop. So I'm starting a new loop just like you would, and I'm going to type in 111 North Vernon, which is a property we have on the market at the moment. Not Vernon, 111 Vernon maybe? North Vernon Street, York. There we go. Now you click on import data and that brings you to the loop, right? We'll do a, I'm assuming since we're working on a buyer's good faith estimate, this will be a buyer's loop. We'll hit continue and done. All right, here we go. So let's take out the loop. Now in the loop, you're gonna have, of course, all the documents that this transaction requires. One of them is the buyer's estimated closing cost. Now for this purpose, I'm not gonna have a buyer because, well, I don't have one. We'll type in the property here, 111 North Vernon. I assume that this will pre-populate when you do autofill if you have a loop properly set up. Now, I don't have it set up, so I'm gonna leave it like that. Let's assume for all intended purposes that this property is selling for $200,000. Okay? Let's assume that the settlement date is the end of December. That way there's no interest per se. Now, one of the first things that you need to know is, okay, what's the title insurance? Now, you have to find out what the title insurance is. Now, to find out the title insurance, you have to go get a table. Now, I have it here. And by the way, we'll have this table set up for you at our website. I'll send you a new link soon. But in the meantime, the link that you see here is a good link that you can use to take a look at what the values are. Now, whenever you look at a Pennsylvania title insurance rate table, you're gonna find that you have the amount, right? In this case, 30,001 to 30,000, right? And then you have a sale amount, which is 576, and a non-sale amount, which is 517. Now, the non-sale amount refers to refinance rates. So that is not something we deal with here since we are doing purchases. So you're always looking at the sale amount. Now we'll scroll down to 200,000 and all the way to 200,000 right here. So the insurance rate that you are going to pay, that the buyer is going to pay on this one, is $15.95. So we go back to the loop, we put it in there, and we say that that is the standard rate. Now there is an enhanced rate, and this table does not have those rates. We generally do not use the enhanced rates. The enhanced rates cover things like if someone didn't get a permit for installing a new bathroom, right? It'll cover that. The standard rate will cover what the banks usually require, which is a clear title to make sure that there's no one that has any claim against this property and that all liens have been satisfied and you're taking a property free and clear of any encumbrances. Now, that is what we usually use, okay? Again, if you feel there is a property that does have some permit issues, perhaps you want to get the enhancement title rate, and you'll have to find that in a different table, okay? Now, closing protection letter, this varies per lender, but generally, I usually like to put $115, okay? Title endorsements, again, it varies by lender. I put $120. Settlement and notary fees, $25 for a notary fee. Recording fee, now this is what the courthouse charges to record a mortgage and the deed, right? The courthouse charges you per page, and mortgages are quite thick. So generally, like $265 is a good amount to put in there. Transfer tax. In Pennsylvania, 1% of the purchase price is the transfer tax paid by the buyer. The total amount is 2%. 1% is paid by the buyer, 1% is paid by the seller. So in this case, you have to put 1% out of 200,000. You just take two zeros out, and it's $2,000, right? Survey. Pennsylvania is not a survey state. There are some states where if you buy a property, you are required to survey the property and get the corners of your property labeled so you know what you're buying. Pennsylvania, it is not one, so you do not have to survey. Most people will not survey their properties unless they're buying a farm or there's some sort of dispute, or there might be some issues, but 99% of the time, any properties that you buy or you help someone buy will have no survey included. Domestic lien search, that is not something we are going to do. It is generally included in the title insurance here, okay? The title company will search for any liens on the property and also any liens on the seller and the buyer, really. They'll check Social Securities on all three to make sure that the buyer doesn't have any outstanding child support, same with the seller, or outstanding taxes, which have to be paid before you buy or sell, and that there are no loans or liens on the property. Now, here is where you would put your broker's fee. Here at Core Partners, you have the ability of charging whatever you like. So if your fee is $495, that's what you can put in there. If your fee is $500, that's what you put in there. If your fee is $295, that's what you put in there. I usually charge myself $395. The only requirement that we have for you guys here is that you keep the exact same broker fee for everyone. Now, because that way you're not discriminating, right? So you pick your fee and you always charge the same to everyone. Can you make an exception? Yes, but only for special things such as, let's say you have someone that keeps buying and selling from you all the time, an investor, right? But you must make sure that the exceptions are, again, constant. Okay, so all my investors, I don't charge them a broker fee because they're buying and selling, 3-4 properties a year, and honestly, they don't want to pay that. They know better, and they will probably go use another agent if I charge it, so I don't charge those. Also, if a person is a client that has bought, maybe 5 houses from me and whatnot, but in general, anyone that just comes in and buys a house, every 5, 6, 7, 10 years from you, or sells a house the same way, just every now and then, this broker fee should be the same for every one of your clients. Now, the property insurance, there are 2 columns here, or 2 rows rather. The first is the first year's premium. I assume that this is going to be about $800 because it's a $200,000 house. This will change drastically depending on what type of insurance agency you pick. I'm picking 800 because that's what I think it would be for a $200,000 house, but you guys are on the field all the time, so as you go in there and you have a better hold on what the insurance rates are, you can change this. Or if your client already sort of have an idea, you can change this. I just have to pick for now. Now, the lenders will also require that you have 2 months, so you're paying a full year, right, which is the $800, and then you are also going to pay 2 months in addition as padding to the escrow, right? So 800 divided by 12 is 66.66 per month times 2. That would be 133.33. Okay. Now the school tax, I am going to make this up. I assume that is $3,500 for the school tax, and that the county tax is $750, and that the municipal tax is $1,250. These amounts will be on the tax record. These amounts will also should be in the MLS. Okay. Now, I am doing this as if this was a conventional or an FHA loan. I always put 12 months in here. Now, on an FHA loan, technically, the lender will be required to gather 13 months. So this amount should be higher, right? You should divide it by 12 and multiply it times 13. And that's the amounts that you should be putting in here. However, there's also a law there that says that they can only collect so much in the escrow. So generally you see them collect 13 months and then give you back a bunch. So if you put here 12 months total, you should be covered. It should be slightly less, whether it's a conventional or an FHA. So I like to go with 12 months. I think that's a good practice, and just leave him there. Now, of course, if you're an association, you got to put it in here. If there are any lender escrows, usually when you put 12 months, that should cover it. They also want a little bit of escrows, but you're closing December 31st. And for example, school taxes generally go from July to June, whether county and municipal go from January 1st to December 31st. So, the prorations are slightly different. You're probably going to pay back the seller for whatever the seller has already paid, because, by the way, in Pennsylvania, taxes are paid in advance, right? So 12 months should take care of even the lender's escrow. You should not have to add that in here if you put 12 months total of the school, county, and municipal tax. Now, association fees, any prorations that you have, if your client is buying a house in an HOA, a homeowners association, a condo or whatnot, same thing. Association fee or capital contributions, if you're buying generally this is for condos, right? Or townhouses that are on an HOA, or even houses that are on an HOA. Sometimes there is a capital contribution, as in when you first buy a house here, you must pay $1,000 up front, right? And then pay an HOA fee of whatever it is per year, right? Which is generally divided on monthly payments. Now, for this purpose, I am going to assume that it's just a home in a neighborhood and there is no HOA or no capital contributions. If there are capital contributions, they would be listed on the MLS. Same with the association fees. It should be listed in the MLS, and it will be listed as either quarterly, monthly, or yearly, right? In this case, none of that should go here. All the prorations, only the prorations should go there if it's a yearly, quarterly, or monthly. The rest will just go in here as your as part of your monthly payments later on. So moving on here, lienable utilities, this is always blank. We never really come across adding this at all. Now, property inspections. I'm assuming that your buyer gets an inspection. Let's say that the inspector charges $550 for an inspection. Let's assume that the wood, a good amount should be about $50, right? Let's assume that you are doing radon. And for the radon test, they'll charge you, let's say, I don't know, $125 for radon. Let's say that you're doing water, and for water you're paying $185 or so. Let's say you're doing sewer, and for sewer you're doing maybe $250. It depends on what sort of inspection you want to use. When it comes to your property inspection and your wood inspection, that's most anyone can do it. I do recommend that you use someone that has additional equipment. Some of the inspectors are just looking at stuff. Some of the inspectors have infrared to take a look at the temperatures. Some of the inspectors have tools that they can measure the humidity levels on the walls, so on and so forth. So make sure that you have a good inspector that has all the tools necessary. When it comes to wood rather, it's generally just a visual inspection, and they'll go with some sort of probe and touch the wood and make sure that it doesn't go through, right? They'll look for trails, which is how termites move, because they don't like the light, right? So they'll make this little trail so you can see. And generally, once the termites are there, if they are treated, the company that treats the property will kind of destroy those trails. So if you see new trails, that means that those trails were there after the property was treated, or the property has never been treated and you definitely have termites in there. The radon treatment are generally done by some canisters or an electronic device, one of the two, right? Either or, the electronic device is dropped off, or the canisters are dropped off by the inspector, generally in the basement, unless you don't have one. And then they'll ask the homeowner to please don't open the doors to the outside if you have a Pilco door, or the windows to the outside of the basement, because that will mess up their testing. After three days, they'll come pick him up, send him to a lab, and you should have an answer a few days after. Okay? If you have the electronic version of it, of course, after a few days, usually it's 3 days, they'll come pick it up, and you'll have a readout, and they'll know right away whether you have radon or not. Radon does not necessarily only happen in basements. You can have radon on the first floor. You can have a condo that is a second floor condo, and you may have radon. Okay, Pennsylvania does have some high concentrations of radon, so if your client wants to check, please have them check. Even if it's a second floor condo, they can still check it. Now, most people don't really check. I own a home. It's a brand new home. I have a family with kids. I never check for radon, but to some people it's really important. So let them decide. Just explain what it is and let them decide if they want to check it or not. Water, generally that will vary depending on what type of loan you are getting. Well, first, if it's public water, you don't check, right? Because it's public water, so you assume it's fine. You're only checking if it's a well or a spring or some other type of private water source for your property. Now, if you have if you have an FHA loan, there will be some requirements on what bacteria they are checking for. If you have a conventional loan, the requirements are a little more lax. So just check with your inspector and make sure that you let them know what type of loan you have, so they know what type of inspections, what type of water inspections to order for you. When it comes to the sewer, again, I put 215 here. Sewer, there will be here, equipment is even more important than equipment when they're checking the property, right? There are some, the guy I use is fantastic. We'll throw a camera all the way all the way to the distribution. They will all open the tank, right? Whether it's a holding tank or just a tank that then has a draining field. Now, if it's a sand mound, then that's a little bit different. But either way, you will have a tank most of the time, and they'll look at the walls to make sure. Before they look at the walls, the tank is generally emptied, so they can take a look. Now, once they take a look with the camera, they can see that the walls are intact. If it's a masonry type tank, or if it's a plastic tank, they want to make sure it's still there. There's a few types of tanks. I'm sure the inspector will let you know what type of tank you have. Now, one of the things to be aware when it comes to this is that then the tank goes to a draining field. There's a box, there's a distribution box that then distributes. Now, a good sewer inspector or septic tank inspector will throw a camera in all the way to the distribution box to make sure that everything is fine and the distribution box is fine and everything is going out. Then they'll go out to where, by throwing that camera in, they'll know whereabouts the draining field is. They'll walk over there and they'll probe to make sure that there is no water that's coming out. Of course, they're not going to do this after a heavy rain because you're not going to see anything. And if the property is vacant, by the way, you are going to have to add an additional, let's say, $200 to this, so it will be $450 instead, right? Why? Because a vacant property hasn't been used in a while. No one's taking a shower, no one's flushing the toilet, and generally the holding tank or the septic tank is just sort of empty, right? So it's not going to work out. It will be not a real inspection. So what you do is you hire a water tanker to come in and first fill it, right? And once it's filled, you cannot fill it. If you do have a combination of public water and a septic, you can open the inspector may open the faucets and just let it fill by itself, right? But that will cost the seller. So most of the time you are bringing a tanker in. If you have a well, you are definitely bringing a tanker in, because if you try to open the faucets to fill up your tank with the well, you might burn that pump. Okay, so find out if the property has been empty, and if it has, make sure that you increase this to at least $450, so it's a reasonable amount as far as your inspection. Okay, we'll leave it at $250 for now. Now, other lead-based paint and stuff, we usually leave that blank. Of course, here, you're only going to type in what you need, right? So I'm assuming that obviously Vernon is on public water and public sewer, so none of that is there, and I'm assuming that they don't really care whether it has radon or not, so these are the only fees that I'm going to put in here. Now, percentages, fees charged as a percentage of the loan. This varies per lender, and again, this is a conversation that you must have with your lender up front as soon as you get your pre-approval letter, when they tell you, okay, what fees am I charging? Or what fee is the lender charging, rather? What's the rate? What's the MI situation? And those are things you must find out. Also, by the way, try to find out what the maximum monthly payment is, because that's really what they're qualifying for. I know that they're giving you an estimate on, let's say you're qualified for $250,000, but really what they're qualifying you is for a payment of $1,900 or $2,200 or whatever it may be, and that's the maximum payment amount. And so you can play with that amount based on where you're buying the property, right? So if you're buying the property in the city, or in a location where taxes are high, you're going to be buying a property that has a lesser amount than if you're buying a property where the taxes are low, because that's going to change your monthly payment quite a bit. Okay, now most lenders will charge a point, so I'm going to put $2,000 in there. They're going to charge you something, so let's find out what they are charging. Now, appraisal and credit report, it's about $650 or $675. Most appraisers now are charged about $600 or $650 or $610 and whatnot, and the credit report is an extra $35 or $45. So $650, $675 is a good amount. Mortgage insurance lender escrow, I don't generally add that. What you do have is mortgage insurance. So let's go with an FHA loan first. on an FHA loan, the upfront MI will be 1.75%. Now, if the loan amount is $200,000, keep in mind this is a fixed rate FHA loan, right? So on an FHA loan, you are going to borrow 96.5%. That's the maximum amount. They can borrow less, but most people will borrow the maximum amount. So if we're looking at 96.5%, you are looking at $200,000 times 96.5%. What they are going to borrow, $193,000. $193,000 is what they would borrow if they wanted to pay the MI themselves. Now, this is going to change in a minute here because, as we just discussed, there is an upfront MI, and the upfront MI is calculated based on this amount, not the purchase amount, right? Because you're only borrowing 193. You are calculating it based on the amount you're borrowing. So when you multiply 175%, when you multiply 193,000 times 1.75%, you're getting an amount for the upfront MI of $3,377.50. Okay, now this amount you can go ahead and add, and most buyers will definitely choose to add it to here, right? So I'm just going to add it, and that will bring my amount from 193 to 196, $3,750. Now, lenders are not going to lend you in $70, right? So I'm just going to assume that this will be $300, right? And that's something you can definitely assume. They're not going to lend you 50 cents. They'll stop at larger numbers. Okay, so the loan amount is not going to be 196 based on the fact that we had 193 plus we had to add the insurance premium, the upfront premium. Now, if it was a VA funding fee, if it was a VA loan and you had a funding fee, the funding fee, like I said, for a VA loan, if this is their first VA loan, is 2.3%. So on 193%, or 193,000, let's take a look. $193,000 times 2.3%. This would be a $4,439. And of course, this wouldn't be here, right? You will have to delete that. Again, this funding fee you can add to the loan, right? So same thing, right? It would be 190. Actually, on a VA, you can borrow the entire 200. So it could be 200 times 200 times 2.3%, which actually would be higher than this amount. It would be 200 times 2.3%. It would be $4,600. Well, we'll get to that in a little bit, right? $4,600, and instead of that amount. So you're going to have one or the other, right? Now, keep in mind, and this is part of the reason why you want to have a good conversation with your lender, is that if the VA loan recipient was discharged because of some sort of injury and they're on disability, there will be zero funding fee, right? If they are using the VA loan benefits and this is their second house, the funding fee might be higher. If this is their third house, the funding fee might be even higher. So you need to find out from the lender what that percentage will be and then add it here. Okay, keep in mind they can borrow 100%, so it's the total, it's full boat, right? 200%, 200,000 in this case, times whatever funding fee there may be. Now we'll keep assuming this is an FHA, so we'll leave that there. Preparation of documents, most lenders will charge you some sort of amount. I'm gonna put $650. That's a fairly safe amount. It could be more, it could be less. $650 is a good amount to leave there. Interest, you can calculate interest. I kind of leave it blank, and then you have miscellaneous fees. I put $100 here just in case. There will be a flood cert, there will be a tax service and a courier fee. 100 should cover everything, right? So now we have to add all these amounts. So let's take a look at this real quick. If we have 1,595 plus 115 plus 120 plus 25 plus 265 plus 2,000 plus 395 plus 800 plus 133.33 plus 3,500 plus 750 plus 1,250 plus 550 plus 50 plus 2,000 plus 650 plus 3377.5 plus 650 plus 100. Now that will be the total amount of their closing costs, right? So that will be 18,325 and 83 cents. Now you're gonna grab this. Now, of course, I didn't even put a home warranty here, but this is where you add up a home warranty if you have one. Home warranties do change depending on their carrier. They could be, you know, $400 up to like $700 and even more, right? So just find out if they want one and then add it to whatever you have. Now we do happen to work at Century 21. I believe we have a deal with one of the home warranty companies that will actually, if you subscribe there, they'll pay you back a small commission, right? So you want to use them if possible. Talk to Carrier Eye about which company to use if you're interested in getting the commission paid by the home warranty company that Century 21 uses. Now, we are going to grab this amount from here, right? And we're going to put it as your estimated closing cost. So, right? Now, the purchase amount is 200. The closing cost is 18,000 and some change. The total amount required will be 218,325 and 83 cents, right? The mortgage amount, we just agreed that it was 196,300 rather. So we're gonna put that in here. The seller's assist, this is if if it's an FHA, you are required, no, you're not required. You have the option to request up to 6% seller's help. Again, these are parts of the loan terms that you should find out from the beginning. If it's a conventional loan, the maximum seller's help might be 3% or 5%. You need to talk to your lender and find out. This is a seller's market, so I'm going to assume that you are requesting no seller's help on this particular amount, on this purchase. Now, the deposit is going to be, let's say, I don't know, $2,000, right? So let's do the math here again. We have 218,325.83 that the buyer is spending, and that is going to be minus 196,300 that the buyer is getting, and minus the $2,000 deposit that the buyer gave or is giving right now if their offer is accepted. So the total amount they will need as settlement is $20,025.83. Now, just to show you what this will do, if it's 6%, that would be, well, 200,000 times 6%, which is $12,000. So obviously it would be this minus $12,000, right? We'll put that negative plus 20,025.83. You're going to be looking at only $8,025.83. So as you can tell, this is a huge help for this buyers, but of course is a detriment to the sellers, right? The sellers are basically getting an offer for their house, which is $12,000 less of asking price. In this market, it may or may not work, but markets vary, right? Right now we're in a seller's market. 6 months from now, we might be in a buyer's market, and this will be fine and acceptable. So it depends. I'm just going to leave it there for now, so you know what it is. Now, I hope you everything was clear here, of course. And now we're going to move up to your payments, right? The rates are low right now. I am going to assume that an FHA is going to be 2.85, and you are required to give him 2. So I'll put 3% on the other end, right? And I highly recommend that you get one of these calculators, a financial calculator. Now you can get a real calculator like this one, or you can get an app on your phone, your smartphone, like this one, and then it's the same buttons, right? But you need to have one if you're in real estate, otherwise you cannot calculate this. So based on 196,300, which is the present value, with an interest rate of 2.85, with 2.5 as the interest rate and 360 as the term, the payment will be 811.81. Based on 3%, that will be 196,300 present value, 3% interest rate, 360 term, payment 827.61. As you can tell, big difference, right? And it's only a small change in the percentage, but that's a big difference. Now taxes, we have these three amounts here, 1, 2, 3 over here, right? So all we do is we get all three amounts, 3,500 plus 750 plus 1,250, which is $5,500. We divide it by 12, and that is how much they're going to charge in taxes, right? So 458.33, that will be the same no matter what, right? 458.33. Property insurance, we had said that it was 800 per year over here. So you do 800 divided by 12, and you get an amount which is 66.67, right? That would be on both columns, 66.67. And then your mortgage insurance premium. Again, we are doing this as an FHA. Remember, VA will have non-conventional, can have either upfront or monthly. So, but this is an FHA. So on an FHA loan, the monthly MI currently is 0.85%. So you're looking at this amount, right? The amount that you're borrowing, which by the way is the 96.5 plus the mortgage insurance premium that you paid up front, right? And then rounded down to a lesser amount, so it's a round number. So based on that, based on 196,300 times the 0.85% rate, that gives you an amount of 1668.55. You divide, that is a yearly, of course, that's a yearly figure, so you divide that by 12, and you're coming up with, I'm coming up with $139.05. So $139.05. This is where the condo fee or the association fee, if you were buying in an association, it could be, just like $50 a month if it's, they're taking care of just the common areas, or it could be like $200 or $150 if they're a month, if they're taking care of everything, snow, trash, perhaps even it could be $200 and they're taking care of the outside because it's a condo, so they're taking care of your roof and your exterior structure insurance and your siding and your doors and your windows, right? In this case, I'm assuming again this is a home that the buyer is buying just in a neighborhood like Vernon, so there will be no association fee. Now the estimated now, it will be, let's say 811.81. Hold on a second. 811.81 plus 458.33 plus 66.67 plus 139.05 equals, the total amount will be $1,475.86. That will be their payment. Now this is not an estimate, this is very, I know it's an estimate, but this is very, very accurate. 827.61 plus 458.33 plus 66.67 plus 139.05. So if you're getting a 3%, you were getting a payment of $1,491.66. All right. Now, if you had a second mortgage, this is what you would do. Sometimes you have 80/20s, or it's been a while since you had an 80/20, but you can have an 80/10, you know, and then you'll have to put the 10% here, and however many years, usually it's 15. Anyways, it's less than 30, and the rate's a little higher than the first loan. Most loans now, because the rates are so cheap, are just a one single loan, right? So that's pretty much it, guys. Again, if you have any questions, please let me know. I hope this sort of shows you how to do this. I am going to see if I can print it here for you so you can see it. Print. Yes, save it, why not? And this is what it looks like, okay? I'll leave it here so you can do a print screen, or if you want to print it from here, you know, you can, or take a picture with your phone and then print it and use it as your cheat sheet so you know what you're doing with FHA loans. And again, you have to modify it if it's a conventional or a VA or a USDA or whatnot, depending on the various types of loans that you might get. All right, hope this was useful to you. If you have any questions, please feel free to reach out. I'll be glad to answer any questions. Thank you very much and have a great day.